Good evening and welcome to the Italian Impact Podcast. I am your host, Stefano Mancini, and as always, I want to thank you, my listeners, for tuning in. I had a very interesting guest last week, Domenico. He was recounting stories that I think a lot of people don't appreciate unless you've lived it. And, something I was talking to somebody today is capturing that is so important to me. So I'm glad you tuned into that, and I had a really good audience for that. So appreciate that, and I'm going to keep doing that. And a nice transition from that, a lot of this sort of stemmed out of the work I did with the documentary. Well, I would like to, kind of thank the folks that are watching the documentary. And I'd also like to thank the fact that, I had a wonderful crew. And as a result of that, we have now been accepted into film festivals in 4 different countries and multiple cities. And recently, we won the Best Feature Documentary at the Dallas Movie Fest. And we have been accepted into the Sofia International Film Festival, and that just came out today. And I have received the Best First Director at the Bomarzo Soul Place Film Festival in Italy. So I can honestly tell you that I am now internationally acclaimed. Just kidding. But I can say that people all over the world are watching it. It's a great documentary, not because of me, but because of the families and the stories that they share. And just like my interview with Domenico last week, that's what this is about. This is about talking to people, getting, what they say, what they think, their stories, out there. Everyone can listen to it. And then what happens is as you start going into your attic, you start looking at old scrapbooks, you start looking at old diaries, and you start remembering people in your family, and you start remember some of those stories. And ultimately, you start talking about that. One of the things I always want to emphasize, especially to younger listeners, you might not care now, but I remember when I was in Italy, and again, I was talking to the little kids when I went out to Abruzzo, and I got a tour of the Gustav line, which a lot of people say, what is that? Well, 80 years ago, actually 80 plus years ago, was famous battles going on there between the Allies and the Axis, and the Germans were really holding them down because if you've ever been to Abruzzo, it's very mountainous, and there's a lot of small towns, so the Germans had artillery and machine guns up in these mountains, and it was just hard to get through there. You look at that now and you go, it's just history. But when you go over there and you talk to the older people, and they still kind of remember that, but they definitely remember their families living through that. And I told the younger people while I was over there, I said, you know what? You need to talk to the older people while they're alive, because there's going to be a time when they're gone, and you might then be interested, and then it will be too late. So whether you're interested or not, go dig up those old diaries, go dig up those old scrapbooks, go call your aunt, your uncle, your grandpa, your grandma, whoever's still alive, and just talk to them. 1, they would appreciate it, but 2, 10, 20, 30 years down the line, you're going to thank me, because you're going to realize, wow, if I had not asked that question, I would not know the answer. Even though you may not care now, there might come a time when you do, and you're going to miss the opportunity, because we are all only on this planet for so long. So I encourage you, go dig in, go find your history, go learn as much as you can, especially while these people are still here, and then take it with you and share it with other folks. I also want to remind folks that I have been, I don't know if this is a blessing or not, but I have been appointed the honorary consulate for the Italian government here in the Pittsburgh area. So if you need your passport renewed, or your Italian passport, that is, or if you need documents, a witness from the Italian government, all those fun things that I can do that I don't want to say this in a mean way, but they definitely fill my day. And you know what? I volunteered, so I'll take it. But seriously, if you need any help with anything, please reach out to me. Now, the one question I keep getting is, can you help me with my citizenship? The answer is no. Unfortunately, citizenship or cittadinanza, hai bisogno di andare a Philadelphia per la tua cittadinanza. So you have to go to Philadelphia for citizenship, but if you want to reach out to me with any kind of general questions, please do. Contact information's out there, and always here to help you out. Always here to help the community more than anything. With that being said, I have a very special guest, a member of the community who owns what I'm going to call a staple of Pittsburgh, been around since 1902, and formerly is known as the Pennsylvania Macaroni Co, but I think here we just call it Penn Mac. And I have the owner of Penn Mac with me, Bill Sunseri. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Well, I gave you a heck of an intro, right? because I know that this man is going to have some good stuff to tell us because, again, that has been around for a long time. Anybody goes down to the Strip, and for folks that are outside of the Pittsburgh area, and I've literally got listeners from about 20-something countries, when you come to Pittsburgh, and you will because everybody does at some point, you're going to go to this place called the Strip, where there's a lot of traditional marketplaces, restaurants, coffee shops, etc. Penn Mac is one of those staples that has just been there, like I said, since 1902. Still there, still crowded, and, a little bit of a commercial for you, Bill. You're welcome. But the selection for what I'm going to call authentic Italian food, it's probably one of the best in the area. Now, I'm going to go, Bill, would you agree with that? And you're going to say?
Sure.
Because if you say anything else, I'm going to say, what are you doing here? But Bill, let's kind of talk about now let's talk about your role like an owner. Obviously you weren't around in 1902. Before I get into Penn Mac, I want to talk about you though. Where are you from, your roots, Pittsburgh guy, family? Let's talk about who are you?
I grew up in Mount Lebanon and lived there till 2000. Moved out of Mount Lebanon for a few years, came back. We live in Robinson right now and worked at Pennsylvania Macaroni probably since I was 10 years old, just doing light stuff around the place.
Did you have an option?
No, not much of one. No, we didn't. But, it was a great experience. We liked it. Not until I got into my teens, and then we started getting a little wild and crazy. We got dragged in there late, early in the morning after staying up late at night. But it paid off.
There's a lot of studies that show that, and this is for parents that don't want to discomfort their kids. I started working at 11. I've not had a job since I was 11 years old. I've literally had a job since I was 11 years old. And there are plenty of studies that show when you get kids working or teaching them responsibility at a young age, they are more likely to be successful.
Well, I agree with that, and we're very successful. And my 16-year-old son now is doing the same thing. He just wants to work. That's what he wants to do. He wants to follow his family tradition, and it's easy for me now not to be easy on him.
Right. Well, at 16, you can start cracking them.
Yeah, you start cracking them hard, and now that I took over the company, purchased the rights of the company from the family, I feel like I'm a better father. Because you sort of treat him like an employee. Just don't look at him when you tell him something to do, and if he doesn't like it, he can get out.
That's one way to do it, for sure. No doubt about it. But that's good. But you know what? At the end, a lot of people are afraid. They're afraid to discipline or to say no because there's a sour, sad face. And you're not doing them a favor at that point. You've got to help them. You're helping them because you're teaching them. Listen, if you don't have a boss that's a family member and you go do that, what's going to happen to you?
Right. They have to understand the responsibility of life. And I think with Penn Mac, it taught me the responsibility. Yes, I had hard times. Every kid, every adult has always had hard times. But when you look back over it all, it pays off.
Now, you obviously grew up kind of the Italian roots, correct?
My mother was Irish. My father was Italian. And
not unusual, apparently. That seems to be the natural fix.
The Italian guys always go after Irish women.
I know. They like them angry. Oh, wait a minute. They could have did that with an Italian broad. Never mind.
Well, I found one of those, but she's not angry. She's good. Well, no, my family, none of us in the family were given Italian names. And I'm not sure if that was because of the way the Italians were being treated in the time in the 50s and the 60s. And I grew up the most American of my whole family. It was peanut butter and jelly. That's what I ate all my life until I hit about 21 or 22 years old. And then I started really eating food.
It's funny you say that because I was the same way. My grandmother, obviously, good old-fashioned Italian food, but for some reason I didn't appreciate it. And this is the whole youth is wasted on the young. I didn't appreciate it till I got older. And now I eat things that would have made me gag, 30, 40 years ago.
Well, I eat mussels and oysters and clams.
Yeah.
And, today I had a tuna melt, the first tuna melt ever in my life. It's not Italian, but we practiced a good Catholic Ash Wednesday.
So I forgot. And I came in, and like I said, I got here really early today, and I had a bagel with a turkey sausage, and then I went to Mass and got the ashes. It's like, oh, we're going to abstain from meat. I'm like, that sort of ship has passed already. But now, did you have any, but was of that like the culture, again, and it's not unusual to say I had one Italian, one non-Italian family. That's my dad was Italian, my mom wasn't. My grandma and grandfather, my dad's side, obviously 100% Italian. So not unusual, though, to not have pure, especially when you're here in the United States. Were there certain things that were specifically and uniquely Italian that were passed down to you?
Well, we spent a lot of time with cousins. We spent a lot of time with family. Family was very, very important. I remember going to my Uncle Tony's house. Uncle Tony.
That's an
Sunseri.
Italian.
You know, we'd always go to his house, and my grandmother was there. And my Uncle Tony and Aunt Ann took care of my grandmother for a long time. And I remember being up on that big hill in Greenfield looking over the city. So that was like, you know, one of the things we did a lot.
Now that, like I said, that is something that I hear a lot of, the importance of family. You know, it was, in fact, I had an interview. I can't remember his name. I feel terrible. But we said, what does it mean when people say, I'm Italian American or I'm Italian? And I said, what does that mean? So, you know, and you kind of touched on something I hear a lot. Family, 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 family. I'm not saying that other cultures don't, you know, appreciate that. But it's something that by name, that word almost always pops out of an Italian's mouth. Oh, family. Family is very important, and it's hard for. We grew up all working together, so there wasn't as much a value to that because you're under each other's skin every day. Right. 3 brothers, a sister, you know, we were all, and it isn't until lately, after January 2nd, I take over the company as a sole owner. Now I'm realizing how these families, our family, they value the company, Penn Mac. They come to the company, Penn Mac, but everybody talks so much about family now. And it's very important for me to make sure I get to eat with my family, sit with my family, and we spend time together. And you know what? That kind of ties into when I opened up. It's you don't appreciate it until, a lot of times, till it's gone. And that includes family.
I agree.
And I'll bet, you know, do you look back and miss people? I mean, obviously you miss people. Do you like, God, I wish I could do that all over again. I would do it different. Are there people specifically that kind of bring out like that?
Yeah, I do that. I mean, my mom, my dad, my grandmother, you know, we always want to do more, but I try to focus on the time I did spend with them and not get dwelled down. You know, the people are so important.
Right. And again, it's one of those, it's a theme that people can't, there's just certain things that people can't learn by you telling them. It's like saying, hey, the stove is hot. I believe you. They touch the stove and they get burned. It's like, it's just something you just keep trying to, you know, we learn later in life. And it's a shame because I think a lot of things are lost. You know, you mentioned that in the 50s and 60s, you know, another recurring theme, Italians were not treated well. Before the war, after the war, they were not treated well. It wasn't until later on that they started to get treated a little better. With that being said, was there anything that you felt like when you looked at, say, other families or different generations maybe within your family, you said, boy, they're doing it different than the way we're doing it as far as, you know, your culture?
Well, no, I don't really. I don't really see that difference. In my world, it was, you know, my dad went to work, my mom was home, and we just hung out with the kids in the neighborhood and the friends, and it was just, I didn't really grow up with authentic traditions. I remember when I was little, when I was younger, people would come into the store and these families would buy olive oil. What do they do with all this olive oil? You know, like so much olive oil. What do they do? Because my mother didn't cook with a lot of olive oil until I met my wife, Fifi, you know, and then there was olive oil everywhere.
And it's really good for you.
It was a change.
Did you ever discover what they're doing with the olive oil?
I found out. It goes on everything.
It's delicious. But let's talk about the store then a little bit, because let's go all about who starts it and what 1902, what's the impetus for it?
Well, in 1902, Salvatore Michelino and Agostino, my grandfather Agostino and his 2 brothers, started the company in a little town, Sharpsburg. They started packaging olive oil, manufacturing macaroni or pasta, and taking imports from their father, who was in Trebia, Sicily. Oh. They exported from Sicily to Sharpsburg, and there was a fire. I believe it was right around 1915, 1920, and they moved over to the Strip District. So they were servicing the people that were the immigrants that were coming over, living in the Hill District or living on North Side or wherever it may be, giving them the food that they knew from home. And that's how that started.
Wow. And now that's been the same building since?
Yes, it has been. It has been. There's been a little expansion
Right.
where the retail cheese center was, and the front door was the only location. And then my dad bought subsequent buildings around and expanded towards the corner of 20th and Penn.
All right, Bill, I'm going to be right back. I got to pay the bills here. Pun intended. Thanks to Greater Pittsburgh Travel. For any of your travel needs, let Tom and the team at Greater Pittsburgh Travel know, and they'll take care of you. For more information, call 412-331-2244 or visit their website at www.greaterpittsburghtravel.com. For all of your plumbing needs, be sure to try Palucci Plumbing. Nick and the team have decades of experience and will get you back up and running. For more information, call Palucci Plumbing at 412-782-5050. And we want to thank the Calabria Club of Pittsburgh. If you're interested in learning more, you can find their contact information on Facebook at Calabria Club of Pittsburgh. Again, thanks Domenica and the team at the Calabria Club of Pittsburgh for your support. And we want to thank La Scuola d'Italia Galileo Galilei, the only nonprofit school in Pittsburgh endorsed by the Italian Consulate. If you're interested in learning Italian or have your children being immersed in the Italian culture and language, be sure to give them a call at 412-404-7070. And that's La Scuola d'Italia Galileo Galilei. We'd also like to thank Chris Gonzalez from the Knights of Columbus. If you have any questions about joining the Knights of Columbus, reach out to Chris Gonzalez at 412-605-9074. All right, welcome back. And I'm here with Bill Sunseri. He is the owner of the famous Penn Mac, Pennsylvania Macaroni Co. here in Pittsburgh. And I think a lot of folks that are listening from the Pittsburgh area or have come through here, gone down to the Strip, they know it, they see it. It is a staple of, I don't think there's much what I'll call the original stores around anymore. And I'll give you a good example. I grew up in Bloomfield. In Bloomfield, we had Donatelli's and some other places that were there forever. He recently closed because, I heard different reasons. Who cares? Bottom line is he's not there anymore. And more of those places, that were a part of your growing up or your family's growing up. And, there's memories in there. There's memories in restaurants. There's memories, in a grocery store. Well, people think like big deal. Let's say something like you guys have been around a while. I'll guarantee you there's people shopping there whose parents shop there, and their parents shop there. That is a part of their life. So some people might not look at that and just say, oh, it's just a store. You go in, you buy your stuff, and you move on. But it might mean more than that. They might have memories when they were a little kid and remembering grandma holding their hand and walking them to the store. That's the true value of something that sticks around. What's your success, your secret to your success for the staying power? That was a tongue twister, by the way.
Yeah, it was. And mentioning Donatelli's, the Donatelli's were great people.
Yeah, a great store.
Paul died. Paul passed away. His father passed away. Very, very close to each other. And Russell took over the store, and it just was so much for him to handle.
Right.
And he decided to go in another direction. But I decided when I bought the company from my brothers and sister, I was going to sit in my dad's seat, right at the front door. When everybody walks in, they're going to see me, right? I want to see them. And I saw a gentleman bring his little boy in today, and the little boy was looking up at the ceiling and just looking at everything. And it just reminded me over the past couple of months how many people have told me that same story, what you're saying. My grandfather brought me here, A gentleman was in yesterday, Mr. Ladon, and he said, I was coming here when I was 5 years old. I knew your grandfather, I knew your father, and I know you. And it's so awesome that you're out here in front of the crowd. You're visible, you're connectable. Sometimes I think I'm a little too connectable because I get it from all angles out there, but that's why.
Why don't you lower the price of the olive oil?
I love it. I love it.
That's what you're getting.
But yeah, it's just the people, there's so much there, and people that, they say, Mo, that's the package of Toroni I liked, and that's the this I liked. And I said, some of those memories that you have, keep them, because it's not as good as it was back then. So just keep that good memory.
That's right. No, that's not right. It's funny you said, because I still remember, so I grew up in Bloomfield, but the first house I remember living was actually on Osceola Street. And people listening going, what are you talking about? Who cares? The point, though, is there was a little corner market. I mean those old markets where you would buy the 1 cent red goldfish, And I remember he would put them in the little brown paper,
penny
paper.
candy.
Yeah. But I remember we were on the street looking for pennies on the ground so I could go down. And I was a little kid. I was like maybe 3, 4 years old. I still remember that. It's not about anything but just a good feeling.
Right.
And all the details almost don't matter. And it's the same thing. Somebody walking to the store, the kid's getting dragged to the store, but maybe they buy them a little candy or something. And then 50 years later, they're going to think of that, and they're going to walk in that store, and that memory is going to pop into their head. And they're going to remember, and they're going to make them feel good. That's why, it's a shame when restaurants or stores, I even say bars, close that have been staples of a community for so long. And I get it, change is inevitable, but there is a sadness in there because I think people don't appreciate, again, it's part of their life.
Well, one of the biggest memories for a lot of people is the smell.
Yes.
They walk in the front door, they get a combination of the dust, they get a combination of the cheese and the meat and the salami, and it's all there, and we're trying to keep it that way.
There is something unique about Italian stores. I don't know what it is, but I noticed, because I remember that, funny you say, because I remember that from Donatelli's.
Might be old money, the smell of old money. Must be old money.
But I remember Donatelli, it was the same way. You go in there, and it was so unique that if I go to was it Delalo's, the one up in
Jeanette?
Yeah, I would go in there in some of that food, and again, it just triggers a memory, and you just remember that, and it's not the same, but at the same time, it is the same because it smell. Nothing more powerful than a smell, I think, to trigger that.
That's that combination of all of the above.
Now, what are you doing that keeps you, for kind of a funny question, but keeps you in business? Because not everybody makes it. You guys obviously are doing well.
My focus is to give the people the best product that I can give them. I want to give them Italian product. So we're weeding out products, but it is authentic Italian products that not focusing on what you can't get at any of the big box stores, but just giving them the best product at the right price. That's how we will survive.
No, and I agree with that. And I also, it's funny you say the big box stores, because I do see some of the big stores try and, come up with what I'll call the international aisle, where they try and bring in the olive oils or the this or that. And sometimes it's like, oh, okay. But there are so many, I don't want to call them niche brands that are like, if I want, I remember growing up, for example, Mancini peppers.
Sure. Who's not in business anymore, and they pack once a year. Someone packs for them once a year, but when they pack it, people buy it up.
And why is that?
Just because of the quality of the product.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought it was the name too, because
that too. Sorry, Steve. I missed that right over my head.
No, but you're right though. But it was something about that. But for whatever reason, there's just certain brands you just can't get. There's certain I'll give you another one, peppercini.
Sure.
How many brands of peppercini are there? A ton of them.
There's tons. Many labels. Everybody puts their name on a peppercini.
And they all say made in Italy, or they have an Italian name
Greek
on it,
or
right?
Greece,
whatever.
Turkey.
But there's only certain ones that, like I said, you go to I'm going to call it a boutique store, for lack of a better term, and you're going to get all this selection. I'll give you another good example is olive oil. Obviously,
right.
you have some.
We have a lot of olive oil.
Right. And there are other places that sell just olive oil, just to show you how many brands there are.
Sure.
But again, how does that affect you though? Because now you're saying, listen, I can wean down or give you a better selection of something. I think it's the best brands, but now you got everyone going, well, we can sell that, we can do that. How do you deal with that then?
Well, anybody can take a product and put it on the shelf. The people have to have a passion for what they're selling. They have to have a connection with the public. And it's the quality, it's the way they sell it, and how they connect. People ask me all the time, well, which is a good olive oil? Well, I can't eat 60 different olive oils and remember the profile and where they're from and what style olive it comes from. But I know what I like, and I know what makes us feel good. So I share that with the people, and my passion, my enthusiasm to satisfy them, not just to sell the oil. It's not about just making money or getting a rebate like the big box stores are going to buy whatever's the cheapest and whatever they can get a rebate on. I like to promote products and brands, and a lot of the packers in Italy are my friends. So I like to promote their product so I can make money, they can make money, And I'm not doing it just for the money.
I was going to ask you that because you're obviously heavy importing. How does that work then? How do you meet all these people? Some of them just from having done this for years. But if someone comes into you, small olive farm in Calabria, and says, I've got a fresh oil, I mean, do you entertain that kind of thing?
I do. There's a fancy food show twice a year that brings all the exporters from Italy in an Italian pavilion. But if somebody comes in my store and they're small packer from Italy, I never stop looking at the ammunition. If you stop looking at the products because you just don't have time for people, you could miss a good product. So I give them the time of day, and once their pony show's over, they got to go. Because I got to move on to the next one.
Yay or nay?
If it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. And I'll tell them that too.
But you don't. You obviously do not only import from Italy.
No,
I know you have Greek stuff down there.
We have some Greek stuff that we source locally. We buy a lot of English, French, Spanish cheeses. There's importers in New York and New Jersey, and they do that consolidating. They have the license to import the cheeses, and we buy from them.
Wow. So this is not something that people do overnight. This is where decades and decades of experience allows you then to, figure out one, the Rolodex for folks, where to go, who to talk to, how to import.
That's my specialty.
Right.
I mean, I've been in sales, I've been in purchasing, I've been in administration, and now I'm back and I'm overseeing every item that's bought at the store. I'm watching every person who's doing the buying, and I know where to get the stuff. And that's the best challenge, is to procure it and get it for you.
Were you away from Penn Mac for a while?
I was away from Penn Mac from 2018 till January 1st, 2025.
Just took a break?
We sold our food service division, and I was to work for the company that bought us, but they turned the company upside down like a salt and pepper shaker and started shaking it like crazy, and I couldn't handle the way the customers were being treated, so I stepped away from the company. And there wasn't enough room on Penn Avenue for 4 brothers and a sister. So 3 of us stepped back from the company and went through some long 7-year negotiation. You can read between the lines. But we ended up in a family auction, and I was the lucky winner.
Nice. Now, what's the way ahead?
What do you mean?
A business that just keeps doing the same old thing kind of gets stale. First of all, do you agree with that?
I do. It's investment in the company, investment in the property, investment in the product, and investment in the consumer. Give the consumer the best that we can and I keep stressing it, give them the best product that we can get, but bring new products in too. And you have to weed out the 80-20 rule,
Right.
80%, how's that go? 80% of your business is 20% of your product, so that leaves a lot to fall off the branch.
No, so that's actually a really good point. Because having said that, then how do you, going forward, I mean, you don't want to run with the status quo. Ultimately, The customer is going to decide what products they want, what products they don't want, and it's obvious. When I see this one is selling out and I don't see this one moving, when it comes time to renew, I don't renew, and I buy maybe a little more of this.
Sure.
At the same time, I don't want to have an empty space on the shelf, so I find something to replace it that may compete against the original one. What else is coming down the pike, though, as far as
Well, it's about adding value. We're going to start making fresh mozzarella. We're going to start making pasta. We're going to start doing meal replacement to go.
You had me at mozzarella.
There's talk over the last few days of expansion. I've got to get my place right here buttoned up, and when I do, there's people that want to. There are people that want to help me grow. I am very enthusiastic. You can ask my wife, my son, the people that are coming in. Give them more. Give the customer more options, not just products on the shelf, but services. That's the key, kind service, and we're gonna expand.
Now, when you say expand, in that location, or what I'll call franchising.
Well, that's I'm hesitant to license the name.
Well, and I was going to say, it doesn't necessarily have to be a franchise. It could just be another location.
There'll be other locations, because I have some really good employees that work for me that would benefit from, say, partial ownership
Right.
and running one of the stores.
Or store manager in another city or town. Right.
These big stores in New York have flagship stores. Well, I have that.
Right.
Now I need satellites, and was talking with one of the reporters from the Pittsburgh Business Times. And Morgantown is a place, Washington, PA, Cranberry, Wheeling, Weirton, all these places that are within an hour and a half drive of Pittsburgh, I can service them all from my flagship because I have the warehousing facility there.
And I'll tell you what's funny. You said West Virginia, and about a year ago I interviewed. Oh, I'm so bad with names, but they do the West Virginia Italian Heritage Festival.
Clarksburg.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did not have a clue how many Italians were there until I became but between that festival and becoming the consulate and getting calls from West Virginia for their passports, I'm like, you realize how many Italians are in West Virginia.
I hope to make it to the Clarksburg Festival this year.
I'm gonna do everything in my power to go there. Yeah, I wanted to go last year. I was actually out of the country, so I have a legitimate excuse. Yeah, it just looks like it is just a fun time.
It'd be nice to turn the Vintage Grand Prix into the Italian Vintage Grand Prix.
Are you listening,
in
fellas?
Pittsburgh? You guys out there?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I mean, they do a marquee car every year, whether it's a Ferrari or a Mini Cooper or whatever it may be. But it would be nice to have an Italian.
Something tells me if Penn Mac buys the naming rights. Well, you know what? But that West Virginia Heritage Festival proves that ultimately it doesn't have to be an Italian community. It just has to be a community that's willing to, I don't want to say spend a few bucks, but willing or have the need for something beyond, fast food and chain restaurants. People that are actually going to cook or buy something. And but it certainly helps when you have an Italian community that's.
It does. But what's really nice about having an Italian festival is everyone goes.
Right.
It's friendly. It's eat, have fun, drink, eat, whatever, play bocce. Just get together. Everybody knows when they go to an Italian festival,
you're going to eat well.
It's going to be great.
That's right. You're going to have a good time and you're going to eat well.
Right. They're friendly people. We went to the Calabria Club a couple weekends ago, and the people were so friendly to me. I never knew Calabrians could be so nice, right? No, I'm just kidding. To all my Calabrian friends out there, I mean, it was just the best thing in the world. It was the best feeling in the world to be around.
That was a great event.
That I forgot. I knew, from being away from the business and being out of the community for 7 years, I forgot, but I remembered all their names, and it was awesome.
I'm glad you remember names because I cannot remember names.
Well, that's because you were working too hard. It wasn't.
There's a lot of truth in that. Yeah. I was just at the door half the night, and the other half was running around doing this and whatever. But Bill, what's next for you guys? Like, what's next?
What is next? Right now, we're getting our place buttoned up, getting it polished up, get the walls painted, get everything going nice, get all the employees working on the same page, and focusing on the consumer, making sure we get through Easter. Easter's coming up, and it's going to be I guarantee you this will be our biggest Easter because we're going to celebrate it, we're going to promote it, and we're going to have some nice little giveaways for people, and we're also going to do a Christmas in July. Every year people come down to Penn Mac and they drink. They go to the back room and they drink. My brother Rick, he came up with this idea years ago because there's so many what we call spectators. A family walks in with 5 or 6 people. There's one person buying, right? So let's take the other 5. We'll take them in the back and get them drunk while the one person shops.
I thought you wanted the drunk people to shop. They would buy all kinds of stuff. I want 12 cheeses.
We got everybody, so now the shoppers can go shop and the
Wait a minute, is this a secret room that I've never seen?
Just go straight back.
I'm going to now.
The front door,
not to get drunk and buy 20 different French
drunk,
cheeses,
but
the
just
point
to let them taste wine, they love it. There's people.
That's awesome.
There's people that met there and have gotten married. There's people that have met there and become lifelong friends. It's just an opportunity to. One guy came up to me the other day. I forget his first name, and he's from Cranberry. And he's been bringing his kid down there for 25 years, and he said, "I just want to know, Bill, are you going to keep doing the wine?" I said, "Of course." We've got 24 5-gallon jugs of juice fermenting right now, getting ready for Christmas. And I said, well, how do you do it? He said, well, my son's 31 years old, and we call your brother, and we give him an order, and we come in Christmas Eve at 5 a.m. I said, how do you get in? The back door, huh? He said, yeah. And he doesn't want that to go away, and that's not going to go away.
Now, do you have enough room for events?
Not
like a cooking class or a...
We're going to do that, too. My wife, Fifi, wants to remodel. If you're looking at the store, on the second floor, there's a big bow window up there. Yep. And we're going to polish that all up, clean it all up, and we're going to do pasta making, pastry making, and it's really cool up there. The whole atmosphere is really industrial.
And I'll tell you what else is interesting, because when I go in there, there's a lot of food that I don't know what I would do with it.
That's the key.
Right. And so if there's somebody that says, oh, this is how you make this. Oh, that's what that's for. And I'll give you one, baklava. My grandmother used to make that. I look at it, I don't know what I would do with it.
That's Greek, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, she's Calabrian.
Ooh.
So there's the Greek influence. But yes, but I wouldn't know what to do with that. And then somebody says, oh, you got to soak it in water for like days. And
the baklava or the baklava?
I'm sorry, baklava. Well, baklava is the dessert. I eat that. Baklava. That's
why I said it was Greek.
Yeah, we eat the dessert too. But I mean,
all right, tell the editor strike that.
No, Joe, you leave that in there. You ignore this man. No, baklava is the fish. But the baklava, right. I did grow up. I did eat baklava.
Oh, okay.
But baklava is that dried. Was it baklava?
It's dried salted cod.
I don't even know what to do with it.
Well, you soak it.
And then what?
And then you eat it.
There's got to be more to it than that.
Well, no,
I mean, you don't eat it as is. You got to cook it.
You can bread it. You can put it in stew. You can broil it.
Does it taste any good? I mean, does it taste good after having? I got two people in the audience here. One says thumbs down. One says thumbs up.
It is good. If you do it right, it's good. And you have to soak it. And you have to drain it, and you have to rinse it, and soak it, and drain it, and rinse it.
But that is a good example of Phoebe's going to have a class here on that one, because I would be curious.
We could.
And I'll tell you why that's a good one. We talk about memories, and you talk about traditions, and a lot of people don't. They may have ate it as a kid 30, 40, 50 years ago, but most people don't know how to cook. You don't believe me?
Most people don't cook it.
That's right. Go look at the restaurants any day of the week. Well, yes. Probably, I think there's a laziness factor in there. I think there's a busy factor. I agree with it. It's all of the above. But the point, though, is now you don't even know how to do it. Even if you wanted to do it. I would love to see it just one time to say, well, what do I do with this? I may hate it. I might love it. I don't know. But I remember it. But now I'm like, I don't remember it. You know what I mean? Like I remember it, but I don't remember how to cook it, how to prepare it. I don't know any of that stuff. I just remember seeing it. Then what? So I don't know. There's something into those, what I'll call traditional plates. And then again, big difference between true Italian, from Italy food versus, Italian-American food, which there were changes. People come, they adapt, they morph, different ingredients, they make things a little different. But I think there's a lot of foods that people would go, that's how that's made. I think there's a lot out there, and I don't want to watch a YouTube video. I prefer to do it with someone and taste it and see the texture. Yeah, you can learn from online, but I think there's something to be said about the what do they call that? Not the texture, the tinsel. What when you touch something and you get that feel. What is it? Tangible? I got people in the audience here.
We were in Florence and we did it. We went to a cooking school. Why would a guy that has a retail specialty store go to a cooking school? Well, we went to make tiramisu and pasta. I wanted to know how to make the tiramisu and what the mascarpone cheese did and when you whip it and how much you do. And we had a great time. And that's one of our goals, Fifi and I, is to educate the consumer and put a label next to every product that we sell. What it is, where it's from, what is the characteristic of this oil, of what olive is it, what region is it from, which is cheese, Parmigiano Reggiano, from Reggio Emilia, what kind of milk, is it aged? Something where the consumer can look at it and not just look at a label.
Right.
We want to educate them.
No, and I also think, I could pull out the old phone, but I don't. Maybe I'm just old fashioned. I don't want to look at my phone while I'm shopping.
Well, there are phone people.
I know.
And they use that as a great tool. But,
but
I want
and
the
it can
personal. Be. I want a nice little card that tells a gentleman named Steve Jenkins. He ran a Fairway Foods market, and he's been teaching me this for 30 years. Bill, tell them what you're selling them. But it's Steve, I can't tell them. I can't talk to them all. He said, write it down. Let them read it. Let them feel it. They will buy it.
Interesting. Well, I'm hungry.
Yeah, me too.
All right, Bill, what are your final thoughts?
Oh, I just want to thank everybody in the city. Thank you, Steve, for having me. And this is going to be a great journey. We're so excited. I wake up every morning at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and want to know what I can sell today. Not misery, not like sadness that I got to get up and I got to go to work. I wake up, I get the coffee going, I have a coffee, I get on my computer and I start looking for Italian food now. It's crazy, but I love it. I'm so excited about it all. And our life at home is great. We're never home, but it's good.
Well, now that I know that there's a secret back room where I can drink vino while people shop, I'll be there.
We can take you to the basement and show you behind the scenes.
Is that where the slot machines are? Never say never, Bill. Never say never.
Never say never.
All right, folks, I want to thank you again for tuning in. I want to thank Bill Sunseri from Pennsylvania Macaroni Co, or Penn Mac, as we lovingly call it here in Pittsburgh. Again, if you are in Pittsburgh and you have not made your way down to the Strip recently, please go down and check it out. I'm going to be down there pretty much every Saturday. I'm trying to get out a little more and meet folks because, again, as the honorary consulate, I feel like I want you to have a face to a name. So if anything I can do for you, that's why I'm here. It's why I'm doing this, because I'm a glutton for punishment. I mean, because I like to serve the community, right? That's what I'm supposed to say.
That's what you're here for.
That's what I'm supposed to, yeah, right. All right, well, folks, again, thank you very much. I want to thank my listeners from all over the world and the folks, and again, I got to say it, my comrade in Russia who's religiously downloading me, at least one person. I had an uptick in China, a lot of people in Singapore, a lot of people in Australia, UK, countries in Africa, a lot of people in Brazil, Canada, and obviously my biggest downloaders are here in the U.S. I think I'm up to like 25 countries are downloading this podcast, which blows me away because I'm still trying to figure out how did you find me. So please, I would love to know how you found me, and you can email me at questions@ItalianImpactWeekly.com. Again, that's questions@ItalianImpactWeekly.com. In the meantime, you have a wonderful and blessed week, and I will see you, God willing, next week with another wonderful guest.